standing in the name of Senator Babet. So Senator Babet has submitted a proposal under Standing Order 75 today, which has been circulated and is shown on the dynamic red. Is the consideration supported? Thank you. With the concurrence of the Senate, the clerks will set the clock in line with the formal arrangements made by the whips, and I call Senator Babet.
All right, so back to business. Australia, an energy crisis. I don't think we would all deny that. Now, power bills are becoming unaffordable, and our forced transition out of cheap and reliable coal and gas has left our nation with a massive exposure to blackouts and, unfortunately, forever increasing prices. Now, our energy grid, what is it? It is a house of cards, and it is unfortunately predominantly, as far as I can tell, made in China. Now, China controls most of the world's supply of solar panels and batteries, and they also own the majority of cobalt mines, which is a critical mineral used in so-called renewable energy products. Now, a recent visit to Australia by Energy Minister for Ontario, Mr Todd Smith, should be a wake-up call to Australia to end the ban on nuclear energy. Now, Mr Smith said that nuclear power is Canada's only pathway to net zero. Now, just 20 years ago, the province of Ontario was dependent on coal to generate electricity, as is Australia. But in 2003, it committed to going nuclear. Now, it only took 11 years for it to close its last coal-fired power station, which was in 2014. Now, in the last year, Ontario sourced more than 50% of its power from conventional large-scale nuclear plants, and its power prices are now about half the price per kilowatt-hour than is in Australia. Now, at the turn of the 21st century, Australia had some of the cheapest and most reliable energy in the world. That started to change when the Howard government imposed a 5% renewable energy target around 2001, approximately. Now, in 2006, the Howard government commissioned an investigation into building nuclear power plants in Australia, which the Labor Party obviously opposed. When Labor was elected in 2007, it lifted the renewable energy target to 20%, and state governments also introduced renewable energy targets and subsidies. And just like clockwork, power prices have risen consistently ever since. Now, Minister Chris Bowen says that it would take too long and cost too much for Australia to go nuclear. But let's talk about the cost of not going nuclear. Now, to meet Australia's aspiration of net zero by 2050, a recent report by Net Zero Australia puts the cost at $1.5 trillion by the end of the decade, with the need for $7 to $9 trillion of capital by 2060. So that's around $9,000 billion, or nine times our federal debt. Wokeness is a very expensive business, it seems. Now, according to Minister Bowen, just meeting our 43% reduction target by 2030 would require us to install 22,000 solar panels every day for 8 years, along with 40 wind turbines every single month, backed by at least 10,000 kilometres of additional transmission lines. Now, all this infrastructure, it can't be that good for the environment. How many whales need to be beached? How many wedge-tailed eagles need to be killed? How many trees need to be cut down? How much prime agricultural land needs to be covered in solar panels that last maybe 20 years before they end up being thrown into landfill? Seems to me that some in this place aren't that focused on genuine environmentalism as they claim to be. Now, nuclear power can directly replace coal. The jobs, they pay well, and many of the skills, they are transferable. No one who currently works in the coal industry wants to spend their days unboxing and fitting Chinese-made solar panels onto roofs. Nuclear power, it provides a dignified transition. And best of all, nuclear can simply plug into our existing grid and provide the stable baseload energy needed to revitalise our manufacturing sector. The plants can be built in the exact same footprint where coal power stations currently sit today. Now, I ask our government one question. Should we spend our money here at home, or should we send it overseas to China? The renewable energy transition, it's turned Australia into nothing short of a Chinese colony. Now, nuclear power, it bridges the gap between both sides of politics. It is economically and environmentally viable. We need to end this madness. It's time to legalise, embrace nuclear power for Australia.
And now the question is that the motion moved by Senator Babet be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. Against, no. The ayes have it. Sorry, did I? No, sorry, division required, ring the bells. The question is that motion moved by Senator Babet be agreed to. The ayes shall pass to the right. The no shall pass to the left. I appoint Senator Askew to tell it for the ayes, Senator Urquhart to tell it for the noes. Order. The result of the division is ayes 27, noes 31. The question is resolved in the negative.
Yeah, that's my kind of party. The United Australia Party. So sound the starting gun. You know we've just been